Welcome to a new Deal Me In live stream. I'm the Gentleman Wake. As always, I'm riding solo today. Chris Moyer cannot be here with us today, but we do have a great guest. He's waiting in the wings. He'll be on here shortly. I just wanted to, number one, say hello to everybody and to new viewers and old viewers alike. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about the collector's journey today, which I think is something that applies to anyone who collects, be it playing cards or anything else, really. So we're kind of excited to talk about that stuff. I just wanted to give a few updates as to where we are with current projects. Most of you who ordered the Goldsmith decks should have received their orders finally after so long. Those decks should be coming into your hands if they're not already in your hands. I know some international customers are maybe still waiting for the decks to clear customs or whatnot, but you should have them very soon. I'm really excited that that's finally behind us. And if you have not had a chance to check out the Goldsmith decks and you're interested as to what I'm talking about, make sure to visit thegentlemanwake.com. Those decks are now available at the store, ready to ship. I think they're beautiful decks designed by Kevin Cantrell, who was on with us last time to discuss a little bit about that project. So if you want to catch up on some of that, you can always go back and watch that live stream episode, which was the previous one to the one you're watching now. And then aside from that, Beetlebacks, the digital proofs are approved, and now we're in queue for production. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. Hopefully it'll be before the end of the year. I know it's already September. So, that's one of those things that we're kind of hoping to beat the onset of the Chinese New Year holiday, which always kind of derails stuff in China for a little bit. So there's that to contend with, but we hope to have those decks hopefully in your hands sometime in January, maybe February the latest, but that's kind of like the goal right now. We think that's how long it's going to take. Other than that, we're excited. I know I mentioned this previously when we had Lorenzo Gaggiotti from Stockholm 17 on earlier on this podcast in another episode. We are fully into the design process of the new Parlor Royale decks, which should be hopefully coming soon to Kickstarter within the next couple of months. And that's something that we're really excited to bring you. It's a continuation of the Parlor campaign in a way. And in other ways, it's a new deck. So it's kind of interesting and I think it's exciting. It's a very kind of limited scope project, not one of these big tentpole projects like I do that has like 7 decks. I think we're only going to do 3 decks for this campaign. So far, that's what we've discussed, Lorenzo and I. So that's pretty much the updates. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave some comments in either the chat, at the live chat as we watch, or comment in the comments below, and hopefully I can get to them. Got a few people to say good hello to before we continue, but let's bring on our guest of honor today, which is Jamie Morrison. Some of you may know him as Bacon Wise. He's also the producer behind all of the Curio playing cards campaigns. Jamie, welcome.
Hello, how are you, Omar?
Good. Happy to see you. Happy to talk to you. Happy to bring you on. It's a little bit bittersweet, I think.
Sure.
The reason I've decided, I was going to reach out to you, and because there's a lot of things that are happening. I don't want to spoil the conversation for those who don't know. There's a lot a lot of ground to cover, but I do want to say hi to a couple of people who are in the chat. Hello, Armand. Matt, how are you? Stu saying, I love this guy. Farouk, all the way from Pakistan, saying greetings. He says he can't stay for long, but he just wanted to drop by and say hello. Kurt saying hello. If I missed anyone, I got Matt right. I think I got Matt. And yep, that's it. A couple people here saying
What's
hi.
Up?
Happy to enjoy this little conversation that we're gonna have. So, where to start? Jamie, why don't we start with you? Because people who might not know who you are. Why have we brought you on here what have we brought you on here to discuss? Primarily, you are a collector, correct? Like, this is how your entry into the world of playing cards began.
Absolutely.
About that.
Yeah, I started collecting back in 2017. I think was probably the origin of collecting. I was in San Diego visiting a headquarters for work, and we had some time to kill. And I was on the boardwalk down there, and they had a magic shop down there. And behind the checkout was a big wall of wonderful custom decks, and I was like, "Huh, what is that?" Because like many people out there, it's bicycle or casino decks that you've always grown up with. And so I was killing some time. I said, "Hey, can I take a look?" And it was the Dia de los Muertos by the Edgy Brothers,
Mm.
second edition. I think that was the first one. I got it for $10, I think, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." And so it kind of just planted the seed, and from there, my first Kickstarter that I noticed was the Name of the Wind, which actually is one of my favorite novels of all time. And so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." So they made playing cards, starting to kind of build up momentum. I didn't get those right away because those take months and months, as you know, to show up. So
Right.
in the meantime, I found Illusionist and the Prohibition set, and that one I didn't buy because I wasn't going to spend, I don't know what it was, $150 for like the wooden case and
Mhm.
the 6 decks. But again, that planted the seed, and I started looking for a little earlier or a little easier entry level kind of decks, and it's kind of ballooned from there. But see, I'd say it's back in 2017 is when I first started getting into custom cards and what that meant. So it's
Yeah. So
an
how
eye-opening
are you?
experience.
You're still collecting actively now, or not as
I
much? Or
am, yes, yeah, and that's going to be my main hat I wear now. Is just going back to the collecting roots and enjoying what others are creating and getting to experience that wonderful artwork.
so, how many
And
decks would you say you think you own?
I think it's right around 400, and it's been
Okay.
pretty well curated.
Yeah.
I
Sounds like
It's kind of rookie numbers for some of my close friends who've been collecting for
I
about that amount of time, but
I confess that
yeah,
I had so many duplicates and so many
I
decks,
bet.
and sealed decks that I would never I never even had a chance to even open over the years. And once I started the channel and I started to do reviews, a lot of folks would send me decks, and because I still am an active member of the Kickstarter playing cards community. I also like to support other Kickstarter campaigns by other artists and other producers that also are in the community. So that,
Mhm.
of course, means that I've got I had an abundance. I still do an abundance of playing card decks, but just recently, last year, I started to kind of whittle down and cull down a little bit of that stuff,
Mhm.
and selling some of it
Yeah,
off on eBay and giving some of it away. It was just so much; it started to be overwhelming. So
it
400
is.
sounds
Yes.
like a great number.
It's a pretty comfortable number, and I tend to, when I collect and see new campaigns, I will likely kind of distill it down to one version that I like, unless there's a significant difference between versions. But it doesn't mean I don't love all the versions. It's just like I'm okay with representing that whole project with this one deck. And so that's helped keep well, I would say keep the obsession under control. I guess that's relative, but it's still, I'd say it's under control now at around 400.
Stu says no sane person would pay $10 for a deck of playing cards.
That's right, Stu. Get your wallet out. Pay some more, buddy.
Oh, what's up, Kevin? How are you? Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Kevin.
Uh,
What's up?
so and like I put up earlier, Matt doesn't need to be reminded of his insanity. Yeah, I think the collector mindset. This is something that's very interesting. Before we get into like kind of your evolution from collector into something
Yeah.
else, but as a collector, were playing cards the first thing you collected, or have you always collected something in your life?
Yeah, I would say that's the first deliberate collection I really had, and
Right.
I
Interesting.
do collect some antique keys, which isn't really, haven't really deep dived into that.
Right.
It can get kind of wild, especially if you want a key with history, like this opened the jail gate to this castle. I don't quite go that crazy with it, but I would say, yeah, collecting cards has been the most deliberate kind of collection that I've had. I kind of collected baseball cards when I was younger in the '90s, but it was never a concerted effort. It was just kind of like I don't know. There wasn't really any commitment to it. So playing cards is for sure has been really the only thing that I've been collecting, because for me it's a full experience. It's artwork that's been reduced down into just it's amazing how they can translate it in such a small form factor. But I just love that experience. Oh, there's Steven. Hello, Steven.
Because he has an antique gift for you. So, because I mean, my journey to collecting has been a lifelong thing, right? Like I've always collected to some extent. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys can
Sure.
see in the background, there's all kinds of stuff happening, right? Like
Figurine. Yes.
figures and stuff. As a child, I collected comic books. I collected, sports cards. I collected, GI Joes and action figures, and I think that all that stuff kind of stuck with me to a certain degree, right? And as I kind of entered into the world of playing cards, it was like right at the perfect storm of the beginning of like the playing cards craze,
Sure.
Which I think is a good segue because at some point in your collecting journey, you decided like, hey, I not only do I like consuming these products, but I feel like I might want to try making some of my own or being a part of the creation of some of that. How did that all come about?
That's a good question. I was kind of I was looking for a creative outlet myself, and looked into writing, which I still kind of do on the side just for fun. But I thought, what can I do in the playing card space? Because I know all these people. I've collected enough and paid attention enough to know a few of the details, like printing, how that develops, and that sort of thing. So I kind of dipped a toe in and reached out, to Amal. She was the first artist that I worked with. I actually reached out to quite a few artists around that time, to just throw out some ideas that I had, and just said, hey, can you guys help bring this to life? And I like this style, how it fits my vision, and what do you say? And a lot of them were like, no, I don't have time for that. But Amal, she was eager to do it. And thank God she did such a wonderful job translating what was in my brain to something that I think other collectors would like. And that was the first thing, is like, I want to create something I would collect first, and then hopefully there'd be enough in this niche, odd space of collectors where it'd catch on and some people would back it. So that's kind of
this
how it
is
started.
the Anatomica, right, deck?
Correct. Yes.
So how did that come about? Like what was your thought process? It's such an, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's such an odd deck, right?
It
has like
it's kind of, in a sense, I don't want to say nonsensical, but almost fantasy type of body anatomy. And I've always been kind of drawn to anatomy. So there's that, obviously you have a glut of skeleton decks out there. So many you can name off that have that theme of skeletons and kind of morbidity, that sort of thing. So it's really kind of a play on that, because I like that theme. But then kind of take a little bit further. It's like, what if you could peek inside and it wasn't what you would expect? And so we kind of played around. I think the clubs were our first go around with the kind of courts and playing around with what that would look like. Where one of the court cards, you could see part of their internal makings and workings. And so it wasn't meant to be super grotesque in a sense. It is morbid. It's a bit macabre, but I think it was done in kind of a tasteful way. It's unique. It's different. So it was just also play on the different systems of the body. I think I got a little bit too conceptual with all these different layers, but it was really fun to do it. So, and as you can see, there's two different versions. So alternate
what was the kind of the main impetus behind the idea? And like, what drew you to anatomy to be like the main?
Yeah. My wife's a nurse. I've always been kind of connected to, I don't want to say the healthcare field, just the anatomy in general has been a fascinating topic. There's no real connection for my studies or anything along that lines. It was just an idea that was like, hey, this would be cool. That's been bouncing around for a while, just visually. So there's really not much more than just, I thought it looked neat and it would maybe translate well if I had the right artist.
Right. So obviously this campaign was a success. It funded. And it was a modest number, but for a first-time creator, not by any means a small amount. I mean, there's some first-time creators who do projects that are like $3,000 or whatever. Like,
right.
To raise $23,000. Was that on the back of a social media campaign you were doing, or was that just purely word of mouth? How did you accomplish?
Mhm. So, I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing with that marketing side. I say that's the biggest weakness I have going into this. But that was probably more word of mouth through United Cardist connections, the kind of playing card Instagram to a degree. And there's some Facebook groups. I think Amal helped kind of help with her side of things to get people interested. But I would say that was more, I was fairly recognizable in the community for just discussion forums. So I think that helped quite a bit. I did do some of my own marketing through Facebook ads and Instagram ads. That's kind of a different beast altogether. But so the marketing was fairly slim on that. I think it succeeded mostly because of people knew who I was, and they wanted to take a chance on that. And
And what was it like for
yeah.
you? Like, what was that whole
Mhm.
experience like for you? Like, what kind of were you, I mean, I remember when I first launched the campaign, and it was like it was like a common a whirlwind of emotions. I felt there, like
Yeah, yeah,
I wasn't stressed out until we launched. I was worried,
right.
and I was
Yeah.
elated and like overcome with
Mhm.
like gratitude. It was like a string of roller coaster emotions. What did you what was that
Absolutely.
like for you?
Well, for me, going into the creator side of it, I tended to kind of overanalyze things. So I was watching the ad drop pledges, and it'd be like I was sending everybody a message like, "Hey, I noticed you tweaked your pledge. What can I
Yeah,
answer for you?" Or, "Damn, I'm sorry to see you go. What happened?
yeah,
Why you leaving me, boo?" You know, that kind of thing. I got a little bit too connected to the. It's almost I work in finance, and we've got clients that I'll talk to them to say, hey, don't look at the market every day, every minute, because it's going to drive you insane. And that's kind of part of that mentality going into it as I was watching it in real time and letting that take over and wondering, oh, what am I doing wrong? But overwhelmingly, it was a positive experience. And so just seeing that come to life and say, okay, I can do this. And I got to work with Cardamundi and USPCC
mhm,
and, RIP Cardamundi. I really enjoyed working with them. Um, but I would say the fulfillment side was a completely different phase, completely different stress for the project because
did you do
I
your
learned.
own fulfillment?
No, I grouped up with a guy that he was another really passionate person in the community, and
Uh,
unfortunately, it did not go well.
mm,
This was for domestic, so overseas it went well with my partner over there. That was pretty simple, but on this end, it was a bit of a nightmare. So uh, a
mm,
lot of it was terrible communication. There was it, and I think it's Yoku. They had a fairly concurrent project going on that was also in this limbo status where there was bad communication. The decks weren't moving, couldn't get them out to any of the backers, and it was just like weeks and weeks of terrible communication.
mm.
And then there's also it was like this weird shrink wrap used instead of the normal cellophane with tear strip. There were just a bit of bizarre, odd things. It was kind of unfortunate, but Henry kind of stepped in and saved the day,
Right.
and with SoCal,
Yeah.
and that was the beginning for my future projects of working with him as kind of the point man for fulfillment. It was a great decision, but so I would say, yeah, the fulfillment was an eye-opening thing. I thought about doing it myself, but there were just too many pieces. I didn't want to screw that up and just make things simple. But I didn't want pallets coming to my house, that kind of thing. So
Right.
I let
No, that
let
makes sense.
others do that.
I find
Um,
that I think fulfillment tends to be the moment of like shock. I am still surprised when I get a bill for fulfillment
yes.
for
Mhm.
projects. And I'm always
Yeah.
like, wow, geez, like I
Right.
just did the Goldsmith fulfillment, right? And that
Yes.
campaign is like like has barely broken even, right? And I
Hmm.
kind of had a little bit of money set aside for fulfillment, and then I got the bill, and I was like, oh god. I mean, so we're back in the negative again. It is what it is. Obviously, that first experience was a healthy enough one for you that you decided to go in there and do it again.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that was with the Inked Beast campaign, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And
That was
that
Ink Beast.
one,
That.
that one raised $81,000 on a 1,000 pledges.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah,
a big jump. That's a
that's a big
significant
jump.
increase. And why do you think was this? What year did what year did this launch? Was it right at the cusp of that pandemic boom, or
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. So 2021 was Anatomica, early 21. This
right,
was launched, I think, I want to say late 2021.
right,
So I was done with fulfillment and jumped into that one. And honestly, this one was a big surprise to me. I think two reasons. Well, one reason that it did fairly well, I think, was using GelUp as a marketing tool.
right.
Though that ended up being a wash.
Yep.
And
I
I
had a
can explain
similar
that. But
experience. Yeah.
so it ended up being a wash. It did bring more eyes to the campaign and then hopefully followers for future campaigns. But I would say really the main thing here was the topic or the theme was a little bit more broadly
Mm,
appealing. So
yeah.
uh, with Anatomica is a pretty niche thing, pretty weird and strange kind of concept. With
Right.
Anatomica or with Ink Beast, it is. I worked with the tattoo artist out of South Korea. I said, "Oh, I really like your style. I'm going to send you a list of animals." And I tried to kind of group them up with kind of aquatic and land-based, and then there's some invertebrates or something like I don't know. I remember there's also flying animals, so they kind of grouped up in those animal kingdom groups. And I like your style. Just make these for me. Send me. It was difficult to communicate, but we got the idea. So it's just a flat fee. He sent me the animals and the ace designs, and then I just put all the pieces together, laid them out, made the card backs and the tucks and all that. So that one was a fun one, pretty straightforward cost wise, because I did a lot of the formatting myself. I just
Right.
needed his style, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a wild ride. That was my first experience really making people angry with Kickstarter. And
Uh, I
you
don't think
can't please everyone,
you're not
but
officially a uh,
yeah. Yeah,
I don't think you're officially a creator until you've of Kickstarter until you've made somebody angry. So,
absolutely. And it happened because Kickstarter glitched when I did a timed release
oh no.
for the Dark Edition, and damn it, it screwed things up. So I decided to do a second release to those who didn't get on the first wave. And so I went from 200 to 300 decks, which isn't a significant jump in the whole scheme of things, but I lost many pledges because of that. I'm not sure why. I think they're maybe for resale. I don't know. They were just so angry. But I think I made quite a few more people happy because the Dark Edition could be accessed by those that really did want it and couldn't get in for technical reasons.
Sure.
So that
And
was the big
were you
issue.
working on the artwork with the artist on this while Anatomica was being made, or it was
I would say while it was being produced, yeah, I would say when it was in the production
right?
process
So
with
it was post
USB.
the campaign
Yeah.
of the first one,
Yep.
and you decided I'm going to do
Mhm.
this again. I'm going to jump right in, find an
Yeah,
artist.
yeah, because I wasn't sure with Anatomica really where things would land. I think it barely broke even on that one, and that was kind of the key thing. And the
Mm,
thing that was great with my wife is she's like, "This is fine if you don't like lose a ton of money doing it.
yeah,
I don't care." She was kind of totally fine in that regard, and I was like, "Okay, that makes sense," because I'm not. It wasn't a business thing for me per se.
right.
As more a way to extend into the community and enhance the hobby and create
So
cool stuff.
when this
But
second project, despite the fact that obviously there were some trade-offs using GelUp brought you a bunch of
yes,
people, but you also have to pay GelUp for their
yes.
contribution, which ends up
Mm,
being, and the ads, it cost a certain amount of money, and you end up
exactly. Mhm.
washing as far as profits and losses there. But
Yeah.
still, 81 grand is a lot of money, and
Yeah.
what did that do? I mean, 1,000 backers, also quite a bit of backers. What did that
Mhm.
do for you, for your thinking moving forward? Like, how did that?
So yeah, Ink Beast, I was like, okay, well, I've got a little bit of cash from this. Taxes were terrible, by the way.
Yeah, of course,
The
of
state of
course.
Washington with taxes, it almost turned into a wash, even though I made a profit on the
Yeah,
campaign. But thanks Washington State, but it is what it is. I didn't lose money on it, so I was like, okay, well, this lets me kick forward, and I can start working on. I want to work with them all again, and so I'm like, okay, let's look at a sequel, and kind of in a sense, a sequel. It's connected to where you can see people inside, but it's plant parts instead of. And this is Botanica. This is instead of
Yes.
weird bones and anatomy. It's more there's a connection with earth and stuff inside, and it's broken up by seasons. There's a really cool fashion kind of approach. She's very big into fashion, and
Uh-huh.
so she was able to look at the references of each group, each cultural group we used in this, and create fashion that's connected there. And then also the designs are seasonal, so it's kind of like in that area. It's also what would be around in the winter, get a feel of winter and summer and spring and stuff. So, and then the Sprout Mini was so much fun. It's the baby versions of those same characters. So that was a really fun mini as far as it goes. One of my favorites that I've done. But so that launched me into saying, okay, let's do this again. I'm excited to work with them all, and it fell flat in a way to where, I mean, it didn't reach any crazy heights or anything. I don't think it matched Anatomica either, but
Yeah.
it was still it's still funded. That was with Legends that I printed that one with,
Uh-huh.
and that went
And
really well.
what do you think was the reason? Obviously, you marketed the deck to your
Mhm.
previous backers,
Yeah.
so maybe there
Mhm.
was a bit of a disconnect in theme, maybe that caused.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was my mistake. I think if I would have probably flip flopped and maybe done Botanica down the line and War of
Right.
Realms right
Yeah.
after Ink Beast, that probably would have appealed more to the Ink Beast crowd that
Yeah.
just jumped on. So looking back in retrospect, I think that may be why, because it goes back into a niche category. And honestly, if you look at it comparatively, you've got kind of a badass theme of tattoo art. It's very aggressive with Ink Beast, with floral, very kind and thoughtful, introspective, just a lovely set of decks. That doesn't probably quite jive with that same group. And so I was really hoping, okay, I'll connect these guys, will come over. And I think just that theme switch was a bit too abrupt for them to really care.
And
So,
and at this
yeah.
point, had you incorporated your brand, or you were just Jamie Morrison making playing cards, doing business
Yeah.
as? Is
Yeah,
that
he's a sole proprietor. Yeah,
right?
just really to have for the state of Washington to be happy. They
Right.
needed to track that kind of stuff, and
Right. So did you
so
did
yeah,
you go ahead and open bank accounts, or was this just something that you worked through your own personal?
just all through my own for the most part. I
Yeah,
don't think I
because I was
really did
thinking about what you said
crazy
about
separate.
taxes and stuff like that, and obviously with the Gentleman
Yeah.
Wake, um, I already had that business, the Gentleman Wake business, prior to even starting this stuff, because I was
Yeah.
making content for people and I was billing them through my business, right?
Yes.
When I started making, YouTube videos on my channel,
Mhm.
obviously that persisted, that
Mhm.
brand persisted, and ended up kind of morphing into the playing cards thing. But obviously when you're running it as a business, you can get away with more expenses and
Yeah.
paying expenses before paying taxes, and it becomes a little
Yeah.
easier to kind of mitigate the damages, so
Mhm.
to speak.
Yes.
All right, so then you did this, which I love, the artwork on this one. I think it's pretty spectacular.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about this project.
Yeah, so that one was I guess in the end, was a disappointment,
Mhm,
and I mean it funded, which is fine.
mhm,
I in part of my hubris, I was thinking this would be an Ink Beast level campaign, maybe further, and the reason why is mainly because Ricardo, this was the artist out of
mhm,
Portugal.
mhm,
Again, I approached him. I loved his style. It's a much different digital style than I worked with before, and I
mhm,
thought it fit really well with the type of world I was trying to create for this project. And the issue here, it was a kind of a painful lesson in how algorithms work in Instagram. So he's got 250,000 followers. I felt this would be kind of a walk in the park with having his followers support him in his project, and
mhm.
it was next to nothing. And part of that is they don't know playing cards really. They know Ricardo is an artist, but necessarily they're like, what do we do with playing cards? But also Instagram, when they connect to another like collaboration,
Mm,
they will throttle that engagement to where it's
mm,
next to nothing. And so it was very frustrating the whole time, because it was falling flat, and he would keep looking at these dashboard reports. He could, put an art post up, and it would get a lot, like thousands and thousands of engagements and comments. These aren't bots; these are real followers. And then he would put up a War of Realms one in collaboration with me and all these other things, and it would get a couple hundred eyes on it. It was really strange, but
mm.
so that was really what I was more banking on, was his followers jumping into the custom card scene and getting a really inexpensive deck of cards. $10 I think is what I had for
Yeah.
the standard decks, and so it just didn't work out that way. It was a valuable lesson indeed, but it was still I still really enjoyed the experience. Ricardo was passionate about it. We had a lot of fun going through these tweaks and thinking of ideas, and
And
it
as
was a
far as the
blast.
concept for the deck is concerned, you have all these really cool kind of archetypal characters, and
Hmm.
but
Yep.
how did you come up with all of that? Did you work with him together? I
Yeah.
mean, maybe where your writing background comes into play, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I pretty much came up with the concept of having these different realms that are based off of fantasy characters, and like you said, archetypal characters. I wanted there to be a big blend of magic users and just brutes and demons, and it was a bit of a hodgepodge.
Mm,
And I wanted it to be something where it felt like these were factions that would go to war against each other, and again, this is going back to the hubris of it. Is I was thinking, okay, this is going to do really well, and then I'll do the next installment, because there's a lot of realms. This is just two of them in
mm,
this universe, I guess, that I wanted to create. So
mhm.
obviously that's going to stick with two realms for good, but there was kind of this plan to expand upon that, and it just wasn't in the cards, pun intended. But it was still, the experience was good. Again, the marketing is what really was the Achilles heel for this project.
It's really a shame because, like I said, the artwork is really great,
Yeah, thank you.
and the style I think is fun. I think it's hard to explain why something that has good artwork uh, and is well thought out wouldn't do the kind of numbers that you were interested in doing. Did you use Jellup again when you did this?
So with Jellup, yes, and that was a disaster. Yeah.
Mm.
So Jellup, they were like, "This is a sinking ship." They abandoned my project.
Oh no!
Couple days into it, they were like, they went radio silent. They shut down, because you set up kind of like a Slack chat board kind of
Right,
thing is what they
right.
do, and that went radio silent. They're like, "Hey, we'll send you the bill," and there was no communication. It was bizarre, because we had a pretty good working relationship from Ink Beast,
Hmm.
and it's like I was never, like, it didn't exist prior to that. Just the way they treated me was very unprofessional. I was super, super, I guess, dissatisfied with what they did. So that was the hard thing to learn, is that they also can back out of their commitment with no issues, and they don't care. so
So
so it's just
obviously,
odd. Yeah.
so obviously, these kind of setbacks had a profound effect on your thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Mhm.
recently, you posted that, as in fact, it might be even an update here. Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
where you have officially announced the closing of the doors, so to speak, as far as the
Yes.
production of playing cards is concerned. So this couldn't have been an easy choice for you to do, right? Or
No.
was it?
That, in a sense, it was both. So it was easy because I just know that from a success standpoint, at least the metrics that I use, I wasn't going to reach that with the way I approach things, with what is out in the market now.
Hmm.
It was a difficult decision, because I've got all these ideas that I want to keep going with, and go further into. And I was pursuing a couple of licensed projects that I probably would have, if I had gotten the green light with those, I would have probably done at least another project.
Hmm.
Mainly for me, because again, I'd want to collect it. with proper licensed like direct material, and also because I think people think it's cool. Never Ending Story is a good example. That's one where I think I went through 2 years of bothering this group that has the licensing, and they're over in Europe, and it's such a weird, complicated mess, that whole licensing thing. But so they finally got tired of me, I guess, or something. But they said it's not worth our effort. And so when I laid out what their effort would be, it was pretty much just let me pay you to do this. They didn't think it's worth it. So that was kind of a crushing blow. And without that type of project, that was like, well, the rest is just kind of me wanting to dive into some fun ideas that would be more than just one project. So I thought this is probably a good time to bow out and then just do that. So it was tough and it was easy, because it's a lot better to keep things simple now, I think, for my mentality, and
So
just enjoy the ride. So
I'm assuming you went ahead and you printed many additional copies of all your decks, right? Like there somewhere is a, boxes there are boxes full of other copies of your decks, and I know you have a playing card store, but are you closing the store as well, or what is what is
so the store shut down. So it's shut down as of today. Actually, it was supposed to be yesterday, but I was out of town. But so yeah, the extra stock that'll be donated. And it's just kind of how it goes. So there's a number of outfits here in town that I'm giving some to, and that'll be just kind of a tough thing. Is like, well, it sucks because there's a minimum print with some of these, but I did have quite a few of those decks cleaned out in this closing sale. So that's just a matter of part of moving on as well. Is like, okay, I need to probably stop looking at all these boxes and kind of clear out my mind instead of just looking at this and wondering, what if. But so yeah, it was an easy decision in a lot of ways. Part of it too is I think what's popular in the industry now is just not something I'm really wanting to shift into. I don't want to go right to that mindset, and because I don't know, it's because fully custom for the full experience, I feel like a lot of times these days it's a little bit more about that wow tuck factor and what kind of contraptions can you do, and so it's more just a personal taste thing. But so I'm just gonna watch from the outside moving forward.
Is collecting still something that you want to do, or are you soured by the experience to the point where you're like, you know what, I don't kind of want to do this for now, or I'm not ready?
Yeah, no, I'm still in. I've throttled it down quite a bit. As I mentioned, I've been reducing like campaigns to just one type of card or one type of deck. But I have a group of people, just a couple of Patreon subscriptions that I use, and then when things go onto Kickstarter, I'm looking. It's not just the big names that I look for, though they do a good job, but I'm looking for the small creators that are doing something fun and different, and people that look like they've done their homework. They're not just throwing out a crappy campaign, and they don't have any prototypes. They're not doing anything really to make it look like they know what they're expecting. So when I can, I go on the forums, offer feedback. I love to do that. Give some from a collector's point of view, is just say, hey, here's what I like and what could be improved. But there's some big,
I'm curious. What is your perspective on the playing cards market and like how it's changed over the years? And because you mentioned obviously that you feel like now it's become about the tuck boxes. So talk a little bit about that. Like why do you think it is so difficult?
Well, I think a part of it is, so I mentioned these kind of elaborate tuck boxes. You've got AI joining the scene, and which can be good and bad, but I do believe that it's shifting into where consumers, they're wanting things sooner, and they're wanting things grand and elaborate, and a lot of times that's only achievable if you're the printer doing those decks. So you have outfits out in Asia that are just killing it, with these incredibly stunning pieces of art and these crazy displays and all that kind of stuff. So that is appealing because they can see it almost immediately. It's being shipped in 1 month or 2 months instead of half a year or so, or a year. It just depends on who you're using to print. But the immediacy is big for consumers. The bling, the wow factor from the initial kind of introduction.
I take it you're speaking mostly about like card manufacturers like ARC, right? Like the ARC playing
ARC,
card.
yep.
They do
ARC,
like
TCC, Card Mafia, Room One. They're doing a lot of new things with those tucks. So that seems to be the laser cutting. Even Lorenzo's doing a lot more laser cut work and experimenting with that. So I think that is an appealing thing for people. It's something where you just have to say wow, and usually because they're essentially treating it like a store, it's pretty good pricing on Kickstarter, so it's a pretty easy decision. So and I think with AI, that is more, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of it personally, because I've worked with so many artists with my projects that I think that's a really cool human component of it, because you get to see that spark, see that ingenuity, and how to get around problems and communicate and revise and all that stuff. But it is useful because if let's say I didn't want to work with artists, I could pretty much, create artwork on my own in a lot of ways. Maybe create pips myself, or certain designs that I could use from AI. Not that I would, but just saying, creators just starting out, they could save quite a bit of cost doing it that way. It just wouldn't have the soul. For me as a collector, if I know it's done by AI, I feel like it's not necessarily robbing a real artist of their work, but it's more just I want that human component because it's a full experience for me. So
yeah, it's interesting. I'm also torn with it. Although I see a lot of potential in good ways, to use it. I use it a lot, even in freelance work that I do for customers in my television production kind of facet that I do. But yeah, that's interesting. So then what's next for you? Like, what are your sights set on now that you're kind of past, you're focusing on other things? Like what's
I'm
the new challenge?
there
He is.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just simplifying my journey. So I'm just digging deeper into collecting. I'm going to be on forums more. I'm really looking forward to my first convention, the 52 Plus Joker. That's going to be in a month, basically, in Niagara. So really, that's going to be I think that's my lane, so to speak, to stay in is in that collecting thing. I have a lot of people that'll send me messages from time to time. You've received them from me. It's like, hey, I've got some ideas on Kickstarter. Can you tell me, what to expect? What were your experiences with this and that? And so I think I'll just kind of be in that space of offering my experiences, in some cases a cautionary tale, in some cases just advice on what to expect. And I'll provide feedback on new designs and what I could see improve, and I just hope it's seen as constructive and useful in some way. So that's really in the card world what I'm going to be focusing on, and then also bothering designers to make things I want, and stuff like that.
So if you were to give somebody who's trying to maybe launch their own playing card deck or campaign some advice, what would be the kind of the principal advice points that you would make?
Well, I would do my homework. First of all, I would review. So when I was first starting, I was going to completed Kickstarters, doing that filter of they're completed and fully funded 100%, and then kind of sort from the best down and just see, okay, what are some common factors in these campaigns? And then also, and not a lot of people know exists, but these discussion boards, they have kind of like United Cardists would have kind of a critique board for new designs, throwing it out there, getting ideas and feedback. You have to have thick skin, I guess, for that. So, but I would say do your homework on what is a reasonable price for printing. Because if I'm going in, I see a brand new creator, they're going to print with USPCC and their goal's $1,000. I'm like, this is not going to go well. Like, it's going to be a big sticker shock thing. So, It's more doing the homework, putting the effort into the campaign to make it look presentable and share what your vision is, so we know a little bit more about it. Like, I like to connect with the story and see that full experience. So I would just say lean on the community. There's a lot of people willing to share information, their experiences. It's just really make it look like there's some effort put into it, and that helps a lot. Obviously, I have to like how it looks first and foremost, but that's the first step. And then the next flag I look at is, did you actually do any research on this? Because I don't want to be surprising and then you have to walk away from the campaign, because it's unfortunately it happens. It has happened recently with big names, and
well, there's some producers who have unfortunately disappeared and
are it's
pretty
very
much
sad
impossible to find. And I mean, part of me understands that. Look, I got an angry email the other day. Not an angry email, angry review on my website. An angry review.
Okay.
Because I wasn't, according to the person who left the review, I wasn't communicating enough. They knew that I had a podcast, and they knew that I talked about my projects on the podcast. But what about if I don't want to listen to the podcast? So this person knew that I had a podcast. The live stream. They knew that I talked about my projects on said live stream. But I'm not a good communicator.
If they watch your stuff, they know you say it in the beginning. Like, it's like they don't have to watch the whole thing. It's like, come on.
Literally the first 5 minutes of every episode. And and I sent out an obvious. This is in regards to Goldsmith. I sent out an email not too long ago, prior to the production, where I was like asking folks what their opinion was of what I should do. I delineated a lot of this. Was during the whole Cardamundi debacle, right? Like Cardamundi.
Yes. Oh my. Yeah.
And I need to find a solution here. Like, what am I going to do? WJPC was already in the picture because they Wormwood had decided to use them for the Wormwood decks. And I was, following suit, really, it looked like. But I wanted to, reach out to my customers and be like, hey, guys, I know it's been a long time. And they've been like 9 months or something like that at that point. It's been over a year, right, since they got them finally. But still. And let them know what was happening. Cardamundi's leaving the business, such and such, and so forth and so on. And the review was like, these cards have come out a year and a half later with no explanation why they were so late.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
come on.
So, but it's like you said, it's like you're always going to make somebody unhappy. Somebody's going to be unhappy with something you did.
Oh man.
So I didn't do so. I don't know. I didn't reach out in the one method that the person would have liked, and ultimately it resulted in, a bad review,
Well, I would say among creators, you do a very good job with communication. And that's a big sticking point for me is, there have been way too many where the communication is just few and far between. It's months and months of radio silence. And I think a lot of, maybe these days, backers are feeling super sensitive to that. And rightfully so, because of what's been happening with big names. And I just, personally for me, life happens, things get in the way. Simple updates, even if it's just checking in. I probably do too many updates. I actually got a comment on one of them. The guy says, this literally says nothing. What a waste of my time. I'm like, why would you comment that? But I'm like, whatever. I'm communicating more than I need to, and I'll take that over way less than I need to. But you can't make everyone happy.
I try. Obviously, like, some people are resistant to like the forms of communication that I am best at, which is obviously like this, where I sit and I talk about things because it's easier. But generally speaking, I try not to bother my backers when there really isn't a lot to report. Like, if there's something bad going on, I'm going to report it. If there's something great going on, I'm going to report it. If no news is good news, like, so
it's the doldrums of production where you're just waiting.
Yeah, where you just wait, you're in queues. And WJPC this is something I didn't mention earlier. Obviously, Cardamundi's removed themselves from the equation. Now WJPC has gotten an influx of orders because there's one less producer. So
Oh,
prices are
geez.
going up and times are going out, and things are slowing down in ways that weren't doing before the whole Cardamundi thing happened. So
Oh, WJPC.
they're
I had
doing
a
what any good
good
business
experience.
do, right? What
Yes,
what
absolutely.
any
They're taking advantage, and
correct.
unfortunately, for me, there was a lot of issues, and
Yeah.
their communication's terrible.
Well,
Really good card quality, but I would probably do Kingstar if I had another project lined up at
yeah.
this point. Even though WJPC did a good job with what they put out for me, it was
Right.
a lot of changes that I didn't want, and the the damage was pretty bad. I mean, there's just a few things. I won't get too much into it, but
Right.
yeah, it's but they're trying to fill that void, and so you're seeing a lot of these other printers get more work, and Legends should be out there more. So I think they get a little inundated, and so now we're seeing Kingstar. I think is kind of sneaking into being a lot more of a creator choice, and what is it? Drip Drop. They're doing their deck with Kingstar, from what I understand. So
Mm.
um, I think that's going to help propel it further, and it's going to become more used. But USPCC, I don't know when we'll see that again, because their minimums are so high. But
Right.
the custom space with foils and all that jazz,
Yeah.
it's an interesting battle. It's an interesting battle to see that now. So thanks to Cardamundi leaving, but.
Yeah,
Uh,
and for those who might be watching this and might be thinking, well, would love a direct communication line. Discord is something that I'm always checking. There's a Gentleman Wake Discord. It's called the Playing Cards Parlor. There should be a link in the description beneath this live stream, this video, that you can click and join the Discord and be updated on every single project. There's a section on TGW projects, and every single project has its own thread where sometimes sneak peeks at artwork get posted and stuff like that. So make sure to do that. So that's another method of opening lines of communication. And again, the other thing that you could always do if you're a collector, if you're a backer, if you're a customer of mine and you want a question asked, info@thegentlemanwake.com. I personally handle this email. I will reply to any email that comes through, and typically very quickly. I try to be very good about that because obviously communication is critical. All right, so before we close things out, and something we like to do with every guest that we have on is we like to talk about your favorite decks, the decks
yes.
ones that you think are the top of the top, the cream of the crop. So why don't you start us off on your top 5 decks? James.
Yes, I was working on this as homework, and I got it down to my top 37. So no, I'm just kidding. It is so difficult, and
Yeah,
honestly, there are quite a few I could interchange. I don't have
sure.
any homer picks, even though I would love to have my own decks in there. This is the collector Jamie, so I'm going to go through some decks that just blow me away.
Okay.
Um, I just love looking at them all the time, and again, it can be interchangeable. Room 17.
Mhm.
Let's see, get this right here. So that is Stockholm 17, his updated iteration of House of the Rising Spade.
Yeah.
It's the tuck there is just absolutely flawless.
Yeah.
He improved an already fantastic deck. Just mind blowing. I love that. Love that. Love Lorenzo's work.
I love the
Stockholm.
interactivity of
Awesome.
that deck as well.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely. And
get
that's a
right
big
up.
part too, is
There's a
the whole
mystery.
interactivity. Exactly. Another one is the Baja Mar Junkanoo deck.
Yeah,
So the Baja Mar Casino. Let me get like these
and that is by
DS ones.
Usi.
Usi, yes.
Yeah.
And it's just the core cards, kind of that watercolor style they use. There's so much vibrancy, so much color. It's pretty hard to find, at least for a reasonable price. I was lucky enough to get one for a reasonable price, and it's a gem. Absolutely love it. From a color standpoint, it is hard to beat.
Yeah, well,
Usi.
Usi does such a good job with their decks. Like the I've always said the pagan decks are like
Yeah.
in my top 5 for sure.
It is their style is so ephemeral. I don't know. There's like a nature root to it.
Yeah,
I love. Is it Linnea? I think she's the
yeah,
main
Linnea,
artist that does a lot of the gets just
Peter and Linnea.
Yes.
The classic decks, the classic Uzi decks are very good too.
Yeah.
Like they're
Absolutely.
more like traditional kind of court cards, but they're in that style of theirs. It's very,
Yeah.
very cool.
And then they do, their Blue Blood,
Yeah.
their Royal Optic. I mean, there's just so many good ones. So I look forward to what they do next. It's just
Yeah.
always good.
Sure.
This one, Osiris.
Ah.
This is Steve Minty, and this, I mean, there's again, I could put any decks in this top 5, but with Steve, this goes way back in my early collecting days. I got lucky enough to snag the set from one of the secret sales he used to do. So I paid like $30 for both of them. Great deal, especially these days. But his approach to this type of theme, this Egyptian mythology theme, is really fantastic. And he did do the Shadows update, the reboot there, but that OG Osiris and Anubis is one of my favorite pairs. So very, very cool. So then the next one, this was a white whale of mine for years, and
Yeah.
I was able to get into this via a very timely trade. And so this is the Arabesque Gold.
That's the error deck, if I'm not mistaken, right? Correct.
This is just straight up gold, so not the error deck. And this is Lautrec, and many of you know him under Oath playing cards. It is a more standard deck, but it's that his use of foil is masterful. It's just insane. Crypt could be in that spot as well. I mean, it's just there's so many choices, but Arabesque was a white whale. It was the special deck for so many years for me. So I got that and was able to really add to my collection with that. Another one that just I love is the Robin Hood playing cards. This is King's Wild Project, Jackson Robinson.
Yeah.
This is the Sherwood Forest version, so it's got a unique green gilding versus the gold that was part of the I think the gilded subscription,
right?
And the book style that he uses for that those literature decks, I miss those quite a bit. But I think that's kind of peak Jackson for me, or Arthurian is in there as well. Again,
Arthurian,
a lot of energy.
Beautiful deck.
So I would say, if you're forcing me to do the top 5, that's this moment's top 5. It could change in about 30 minutes. Because I put Culture on there.
Some of those. Some of those. I mean, the legal tender decks are really great, and so just a bunch of the Federal 52 stuff that Jackson used to do.
Yes,
I kind of hope he goes back to that stuff. I know that for a fact that stuff is definitely more time consuming, I feel, than some of the stuff he's put out more recently. So
certainly, I would love to see classic Jackson, but he's got a business style that works really well right now. He's killing it. Lord of the Rings and all these upcoming projects. So, but
I'm gonna try and actually get Jackson. I know we talked briefly about having him come on and talk. A little, I haven't had him on the channel in a long time, and he said yes, but then we couldn't nail down the date. It's always
there you go.
Flux.
Well, keep bothering him. I think it'll be a good one.
Jamie, thanks so much, man, for joining us.
Of course, thank you, Omar.
And your time and I'm glad to hear that you're not going away. That it's just a little bit of a restructuring of your role in the community.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm sorry that I completely kind of understand like what disappointments are like. It's hard to be like sit here and be like, I was disappointed that the Beetlebacks only made $100,000, but when you made 150 in the previous campaign. 100 feels like a failure, right? So
I get it. Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm happy. Let me share. I mean, there's no bitterness. It's just kind of a till next time kind of thing. And I hope to see any people that are going to be in Niagara this October. I would love to meet you guys in person. Come say hi. And this is always a pleasure. I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any questions or anything. If you have any ideas or any potential guests that you'd like to see me talk to, please also mention it in the comments below, and we'll see if we can get somebody else on that.
Electra. Do Electra. I'd love to see.
Good. Electra would be good. How is her English? You might have really asked her.
You know what? I think it's pretty good, but I'm not sure. That's I will meet her in Niagara, so I'll ask her.
Interesting.
I'll push her to do it. So, so thank you so much, Omar.
All right, thank you, and see you later, guys. See you next time.